Hello, awesome people. We're having an amazing day today. So for my Fridays, I like to do a top 5 or 10 or 15, whatever, of movies of older things and that sort of a thing. Last week, I did my top 10 animated films of all time. Then previously, I did my top 10 martial arts films, my top 10 sports films, my top 10 action films, my top 10 film films, my top 10 foreign language films, that sort of thing. So I think that's pretty fun. So this week, I thought I would go to the classics and that sort of a thing and give you my top silent films, era films. But there's a couple of caveats before I do this. First of all, this is just going to be my top 5, not my normal top 10. And there's a few reasons for that. First, I haven't seen that many films from this era. Probably only seen like 20 or 25 films. So I don't feel like I have the range of things that I've seen in order to give you a top 10 proper, right? Also, I haven't done a lot of the deeper dives that I haven't seen a lot of things. Like whenever I do my top 10s, I like to, for context, particularly for an older one, I like to look at other top 10s or look at other lists of films, look at them by their ratings, that sort of thing. Critical ratings, that impact and that sort of thing, to give me some stuff to kind of play off of. And sometimes I go against it, sometimes I go with it. But here, 3 films are heavily in most people's lists of the top 10 silent films, but I haven't seen those. Those are Battleship Potemkin from the Soviet Union and The Birth of a Nation from the USA. And then the last one is Jazz Singer from the USA too, I think. So those 3 are typically make a lot of lists. They heavily influence. There are many movie fans and such, and critics and trained people talk about all the values that they added and the things that they did and how great they are. That sort of thing. But remember, I'm not somebody who was in fact trained. I didn't go to school to put together films. I don't make films for a living and that sort of thing. So since I haven't seen a lot of films, if I don't see it, I'm not going to put it on my list. Even if a lot of people say, if I haven't seen it, I just can't put it on my list, right? It's fine. And then I'm not putting any shorts in here to make out the numbers that I have seen. Like for example, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the one with the landing on the moon, with the classic scene of the rocket landing there and that sort of a thing for that like 12 minutes short. I've seen it. So I could put that in here to round out the numbers and make you feel like it's a top 10, but it wouldn't be a top 10. It would be top 5 with 5 others. So we're only doing a top 5 of longer films, all of that I've seen, all of which I enjoy and be happy to recommend to you. All right, so let's start with number 5. Number 5 is 1923's The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Wallace Worsley. It stars Lon Chaney, Patsy Ruth Miller, among many others. This is basically the retelling of the Hunchback of Notre Dame story and so forth. Lon Chaney by this time was a huge star in the silent era, probably our best star that we had in the U.S. at the time. He owns this film as The Hunchback. He's also producing it now too because he's got a big enough name, and he actually directs some scenes too, although he's not on the credits. Love him lots of those reasons. He is definitely at the craft. This is my favorite Hunchback of Notre Dame film. Retelling like a lot better than say the Disney film. Love it lots. I think this is an absolute tour de force of acting, particularly from Lon Chaney. Love him lots. There's nothing that Lon Chaney does that he doesn't own. All right, so that's number 5, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Number 4 is going to be an obvious film that everybody would have on their lists. Many people have it around here. And that is Metropolis from 27, directed by Fritz Lang, starring a giant cast like Alfred Abel and Brigitte Helm for you folks. Absolutely classic. Love it lots. It's set in a futuristic dystopian where 2 classes are separated and such, and then somebody will wind up going from the upper levels where they're living lives of leisure to the lower levels, and will sort of become this sort of of a savior, if you will, for the lower classes, and that sort of a thing. So basically, the ideas are great. I love it lots, but I do think there's a few things here that hold it back from, and it's heavily influential. Everybody loves Metropolis. Everybody copies Metropolis from its scenes, its epic work and such. Absolutely classic for those reasons. Like The Dark City, I also love it lots, which also definitely took a lot of inspiration from this film. But one of the things that I don't like necessarily, first of all, this is a long silent era film. It's real long. Second of all, you probably need to see it like 3 times before you figure out what's going on and have a good handle on everything, because there's just so many moving parts. Now, I'd rather a longer film have too many moving parts than not enough moving parts, right? I don't think a movie is this long. It's also gorgeous. And so forth, and there's some restored versions out there too that I would recommend checking out. But it's heavily influential, gorgeous, love it lots, and so forth. But it's not the most well-paced era, and it's very, very long compared to some of its other shorters. So there you are. That's the reasons why it's sitting back here at the 4th spot, but it is on my top round. Now, I'm on the top 3 are all going to be horror. Get ready for the horror invasion. Number 3 is Nosferatu, an unofficial retelling of Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's going to be fun. I'm not going to take that out. All right. So anyway, this is Nosferatu from 1922. It's directed by F.W. Murnau, and that's M-U-R like murder, so I think it's pronounced Murnau. And then starring Max Schreck, and then Gustav von Wangelheim. I think it's a very strong film. Love it lots. I think the retelling, it's creepy, it's well done, it's incredibly strong with the atmosphere, and so forth. It absolutely added to the vampire canon of Nosferatu, because he physically doesn't look exactly like how we would expect Dracula to look like. He has his own distinctive style. And Max Schreck just nails it so well, so strongly that we have, for example, in The Vampire, we actually have a Nosferatu house that looks more like this and that sort of a thing. Love it lots. So that is number 3 for you folks, Nosferatu. Now, number 2 is the next Lon Chaney film, and that is, of course, The Phantom of the Opera from 1925. It's directed by Rupert Julian. Again, has some starring stuff, and is produced by Lon Chaney. It has some directing films too, some unofficially. And then Norman Carey, I think, does a pretty good job in this too. Love it lots. Again, Lon Chaney nails The Phantom of the Opera. It's gorgeous. It's got great scenes. It's got great music. It's got great stuff all up and down the coast. Love it lots. It's my favorite telling of The Phantom of the Opera. Although I will be honest with you that I have not seen the Broadway musical. I've only seen some of the films. But it is also, just like The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Lon Chaney, this is also my favorite telling of The Hunchback, I'm sorry, the Phantom of the Opera, rather. Love it lots. Lon Chaney nails it from the first scene to the end. Love it lots. All right, so that's number 2. Number 1 is, of course, The Goblet of Dr. Cagliari from 1920. It's directed by Robert Wine, and then starring Werner Krause, who loves him. He's a creepy guy. He's the Dr. Cagliari, and then the creature is Conrad Veidt. Love him lots too. It's an incredibly strong film, an incredibly great film. Love them lots. It's just the visuals, the style, the storytelling, the not being sure about things. Love it lots. I think the acting is nailed from beginning to end. Love it lots. It's hugely influential. I consider that to be more influential than Metropolis on today's stuff that I like. The Nightmare on Elm Street, for example. You can definitely see love it lots. Or, the one with Jack the Reaper King and stuff like that. Love it lots. Heavily influential. Incredibly strong stuff. Love it lots. And so I think it's probably the best film in the silent era too. All right, so here are my top 5. Once again, number 5 is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Number 4 is Metropolis. Number 3 is Nosferatu. Number 2 is The Phantom of the Opera. And number 1 is The Goblet of Dr. Cagliari for you folks. So there are my top 5. Silent films. So have you seen these films? What did you think about them? Would you agree or disagree with them in this order? What would be your top 5 or top 10 silent films? Have you seen more? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Again, try to keep it spoiler free, like I did. I just did a quick little synopsis and such, and put them in the various orders. But I didn't give you plots. I didn't give you spoilers, right, and so forth. Let's not try to do that either. I know some of these. I will try to link you all 5 of these for free on YouTube, since all 5 of these are past their copyright dates, and some of them just weren't renewed. So I'll link you to them all on YouTube in case you're interested in checking them out. All 5 of these for you folks. And there you are. Tomorrow I do a serial Saturdays of older stuff too, just like this. And then that will be for the Doctor Who's and such, the movie serials and TV serials that have been forgotten storytelling method. Today, so we're doing Doctor Who season 2, so The Rescue from '64. And then previously in the preview, and then I just recently started going back to the second season, but I did a few between the first season and the second season of the first Doctor, where I did things like the Shadow. Alright, so again, I'd like to dedicate that to the lost storytelling art. I just did Spider's Web, which is heavily influential from the 36 on the Spider-Man character, one of the earliest pulp era characters from that pulp magazines and so forth. Love them lots. And then you also have the Shadow things from that era too. So you can check out those earlier things if you like this older stuff too. I also do older video game reviews on Wednesday, although I did just recently release 2 Point Museum, because I just put about 25 hours into it over the first week since it was released. But I like to do older video games, like I just did Star Control 2 from '94, Evil Genius 1 from 2004, 2001, this is a Tropical 1, all sorts of things. Then also on Monday, I like to do older reviews of war games and role-playing game stuff. I did Battletech and war game genres, and just did a review of first edition Dungeons and Dragons, the Steading of the Hill Giant Chief. Next week I'll be the second of that trilogy, G2 by Gary Guy from 78. So if you like that, definitely check that out too. And then I try to do 3 reviews a week of these older things, like as an example, the science fiction genre and horror and fantasies that I cover too. I just did H.P. Lovecraft on Tuesday. Tomorrow it will probably be a science fiction one, but on Sunday I'm currently reading some Sword and Sorcery. I just published something by David Drake and Carl Edward. It could be Wagner, it could be Wagner, I'm not sure. So there, called Killer. And so there you are. So if you like those sorts of older things, definitely hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon to be notified of my 7 videos a week from Forsky. Then also let your friends know too. We'll have them, and just watch some of the older stuff too. And then also I do some older stuff too. That's the reason for the passion of the channel. That's where my title comes from too. The worst thing about new books. It's a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And so this is definitely some older stuff that you, in this case, you're watching. You get the idea that we might have forgotten about or heard about, but never actually took the time out to, read or watch. But we should. Or by authors that have been forgotten to time, with great works that are hugely influential in modern stuff. Alrighty. So there you are, and I want to thank you just so much for taking some time out of your day and investing in watching my videos, right? Because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.